The Bothy Storytelling Podcast is a member of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB. Welcome to the Bothy Storytelling Podcast. I'm your host, Calum Lykan. Well, this week, I decided to get over those glums. I was going to get out and about a bit more. So I went out and I met some people and interviewed them. I interviewed Hawaiian dance teachers. I introduced podcasters and storytellers because I want to bring you some interviews throughout this podcast which aren't just about storytellers. I want to bring you everyday stories as well. And I want to bring you the life of people who are out there doing creative and wonderful things. So today's podcast is actually going to be from another podcaster as well. Adam is one of the Young Gaffers. I did a podcast recommendation for them earlier in the season. But I decided to get out and speak to Adam about their podcast and just about himself and get an idea. And I'm going to be honest, folks. The Young Gaffers is about soccer or football. I know nothing about this subject. So this was, in my mind, an absolutely hilarious concept for me to go and ask and talk and try and hold an intellectual-ish conversation with somebody who is so passionate about soccer. So we met in the James Joyce pub downtown in Calgary, and we sat and had a half-hour, 40-minute chat about soccer. I'm going to be honest and say the audio quality isn't as good as I'd like. I love trying to record in bars and coffee shops, but I'm beginning to realise that I might need to forgo that and actually invite people back to the studio or go and meet them at their homes. Sadly, there's a lot of background noise. There's a lot of other customers. When I got into the place, it was empty. I was like, yay, this is going to be brilliant. 5 minutes after sitting down, I was surrounded by office workers and crazy people and people having fun. So it meant that the conversation with Adam is definitely, shall we say, being bombarded with different sounds from the environment. But at the same time, what better place to talk about soccer or football? Just want to point that out. Round ball, kick with the foot, football. What better place to talk about this, though, than in a pub? So, without further ado, I'm just going to play this audio clip and get this going. And here is my chat with Adam from the Young Gaffers. So that is now recording. The format I do is really simple, really easy. I don't even ask questions half the time. Okay. It's more of a chat.
Yeah, sure.
So, first thing, introduce yourself, who you are, what you do for a living, what you do podcast. Just go for it. Just
so my name is Adam, and I am the co-host of a soccer-based podcast based out of Calgary here. We take a uniquely Canadian look at soccer, football,
yeah,
whatever you, got to keep my proper nomenclature here.
Yes,
So we started a couple years ago. We found that we would often sit at our local pub at 10 in the morning every Saturday and Sunday watching the game and shooting the breeze over a cheeky pint at 10:30 in the morning, and we thought maybe we should just record this, and so that's what we wound up doing. Really, our shtick is kind of like, imagine two of your best buddies talking about sports over a pint at the pub.
So effectively what we're doing tonight, because we are very quickly recording this in the James Joyce on 12th?
8th. Close.
I always get the
multiple of 4.
So effectively that's what we're doing tonight. So what do you actually do other than the podcast?
So I work at Alberta Ballet. In the euphemistic title I have is stakeholder relations. But basically I'm in subscription services, so I support our subscribers at the ballet. I'm sort of their dedicated team member for any queries they may have. And we're right in the middle of our renewal season right now, so getting ready for 18-19. And we're looking to wrap up. We're doing this while we're in the process of wrapping up 17-18. So we have one more production left in May. And then we're on hiatus till September, and then off we go again. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So fairly busy.
Yeah, I would say so. Definitely.
Right.
Yeah.
So you do the podcast, and I think we'll focus more on that.
Sure.
Because,
yeah.
I know nothing about ballet.
Okay, that's fine.
And obviously
yeah.
You look like a professional dancer.
Thank
to
you.
Me, so,
It's all in the posture, really.
But the podcast is obviously, Young Gaffers, it's all about football. You obviously soccer.
Yeah.
Sorry, I saw that. Football. It's football. Yeah, this is when you get the international divide between terminology.
We're bridging the cultural gap.
Yes, that's the one.
Yes.
So you're obviously a big fan of soccer.
I am. Yeah.
Excellent. And soccer is an interesting one because this podcast is all about storytelling. This is about soccer.
Yeah.
I do. You obviously do soccer.
Yeah.
So I have to kind of look at this and say, well, where do I get storytelling in soccer?
Yeah.
And the way I look at it is, you guys obviously interview, you chat, you go along to the games, so you're really immersed in it.
Yep.
I remember watching it many years ago, obviously being from Scotland, to say football, soccer is a national sport there. It is.
Yeah.
We're not very good at it, but I remember the drama.
Yeah, you've got a couple big club rivalries out there. Do you know what I mean?
We did.
Yes.
Until the drama.
Yes, fair.
But it's kind of interesting because as things evolve, the storylines and everything evolve, and I've noticed that football certainly seems to develop almost what's the word I'm looking for? That kind of Big Brother-esque, what's that word I'm looking for? It's all about that drama, the story.
110%, yeah. It's very macro. It's not just the 22 men or women kicking the ball around the field. I think there's always
very politically correct.
Thank you, Calum. Thank you. There's always there's subtext over the course of 90 minutes. I think there are key events. Some we agree with, some we don't. If it involves a call on the field, there are tactics. Club A may resort to a certain set of tactics, and then Club B reads and reacts to them, and so on. So there is, I would say, certainly a narrative unfolding, right? But there's also everything off the pitch as well, which is what we actually take most joy in speaking about, because there's a lot of idiocy that happens off the pitch. Right?
Could you name a couple of examples?
I mean,
without maybe naming names,
I mean, there's everything from I don't know. Just a couple of weeks ago, a player showed up a day early to catch the coach to travel to Manchester for his match for their match.
Had a heavy night out been involved?
I don't know, but he showed up in his track suit with his kit bag and everything, and it just so happens that a couple of the other guys were in the parking lot and filmed this all on their cell phone. Taking the piss out of him and stuff, right? So just things like that. I mean, I don't know. There are certainly late nights, stupidity.
I think we all have that occasionally.
Bunch of West Brom players were on vacation. I seem to think it was Ibiza they were in,
that doesn't surprise
or Barcelona
me.
or something,
Geez, right.
on a team-sanctioned mini vacation, and 4 players went out on the lash and decided they wanted McDonald's, and when their taxi driver ran inside to use a washroom or something, they stole the cab and just drove it back to the hotel themselves. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's just there's stupid things that happen off the pitch, which is what we love.
Yeah. So that's where you focus. Obviously, you focus on the game.
Yeah.
But you have much more passion about those moments of
for sure.
craziness or passion or stupidity.
For sure. Yeah.
So I'm not, I'll be the first to say, a soccer fan. I have never ever.
I know you told me this the first time we met. You made this very clear to me.
Growing up in Scotland, unfortunately, when it was the Rangers and Celtic as the major players, unfortunately to me, all I saw was the religious conflict that they caused.
Yeah, for sure.
And that didn't appeal. That whole scenario didn't appeal to me.
Yeah.
But I can appreciate the game. My future father-in-law to be,
Yeah.
is an Arsenal.
Okay.
I can't even say that
No,
straight.
yeah, okay.
He's an Arsenal
Fair,
fan. He's a
yeah,
Gunners
okay,
man.
fair.
So I was watching actually a game with him, part of a game with him the other day, and I was rather confused, but I enjoyed it. And at the same time, the antics on field.
Yes.
You know, I've watched rugby and American football and ice hockey, and I've watched sports all over the world.
Yeah.
Could you please explain to me, when somebody pokes your shoulder, how you can do a triple somersault roll and hold your ankle in agony?
Yeah. Well, this is also something that I know this sport is much derided for this aspect. Mm-hmm. I think it's pretty funny. And, I mean, let's be honest, these guys, when they're like, I think 8, 9, 10 years old, they're taught, like, you feel something touch you, you go to ground, right? Because the rules of the game dictate that you will be rewarded for such behavior the vast majority of the time, right? What I think is most interesting is how many players cry wolf, and then you have the one guy who actually takes a serious knock, and he's rolling. I was at the pub. Actually, I was at Hayden Block, having a couple pints and some barbecue with some buddies, and we were watching a North American. Montreal was playing New England, and there was we just looked up at the TVs in between swigs, and there was a guy rolling around on the ground. The two guys I was with, one of them turned to me and he said, "Well, what's this pansy doing on the ground?" You know, and lo and behold, we saw the replay, and he took a studs up challenge right midway up his shin.
Wow.
And the poor guy's leg almost bent it at a 40-foot, you know what I mean? So it's like the one guy, the one guy who doesn't cry wolf.
Yes. And then the rest get up and run.
But I mean, the theatrics are quite brilliant. You know what I mean?
And
yes.
I know that there's a few players. I vaguely know a few.
Yeah.
But I believe that one of the greatest actors also scored what people say is a spectacular goal last week.
Well, yes, Cristiano Ronaldo. I was visiting with my father this weekend, and the first thing he asked me was about that goal and if I saw it, and so. But Ronaldo. I think Ronaldo, when he played in England, he took a lot of legitimate knocks. I think coming from Madeira and playing in Portugal, he went to play in England.
Yes.
It's where he really blossomed into the cultural icon we know today. You know.
I do enjoy your passion
I mean, I remember watching him play for Man United in his last season for them, and I mean, he would just get knocked on his ass every 5 minutes, and I remember thinking, man, he's not going to last long out here. But I think he's now learned playing in Spain, where where the contact may not be as severe. He can just go to ground and get a free kick. You know what I mean? I think it's all part of the game. It's all part of the game. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I've got to admit, from my point of view, from someone who doesn't have any passion for the game, it does make the whole spectacle makes great watching. Like, as a storyteller, you can see little snippets of kind of what could be potentially great forming. You know, the battles, the struggles, all that sort of thing. But I just don't get it. It's a pigskin.
Yeah.
It's 22 men.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, there you go. Yeah, there you go.
I'm doing well here.
Ding.
Yeah, totally. Thank you. And they're basically running back and forwards.
Yeah.
And what is the overall appeal? I mean, you are a man with great passion for this, so come on. What is it that really draws you? What is it that drives you to go to games, to cheer, to roar, to drink, to become a blackguard?
For sure. Well, so I love the flow of the game, especially, it's very beautiful to me, to be honest, the ebb and flow. Especially if you're watching a match where the camera angle is up high looking down on the pitch. I certainly love all the subtext and all the things that happen off the field that contribute to the goings-on the field, if that makes sense. Yes. I think, too, and maybe this is hyperbole, I do actually believe that it's the one sport that truly is... It's larger than life on a global scale. And the example...
Wait. What about wrestling?
Greco-Roman or WWF stuff?
WWE,
I love that. I love that stuff too. I love that stuff too. That is high drama, literally and figuratively.
That is all it is. It's a male soap opera.
Yeah. But the example I often use when people ask me is, in the World Cup a few years ago, in the Côte d'Ivoire, the Ivory Coast, they actually elected to halt the Civil War when the team qualified for the World Cup. All parties involved, yeah. So there was a ceasefire.
Football
Literally stopped the war, Yeah.
Okay, I might have a little bit more respect for
there
this
you go.
game now.
And there's a book called How Soccer Explains the World, which is an ambitious title.
Well, now I need to stop you for a minute because how would you explain the world if the Flat Earth Society are, if they're correct, how do they explain the world through soccer?
Well, there you go. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, because the pigskin is indeed round, right?
It is indeed round. Spherical, almost. Some would say.
True, but the author's name of this book eludes me. But he uses a lot of. He uses a sport to explain a lot of cultural pieces, and I mean he travels all around the world. There's a story he has about. It's a little darker, but about the ultras in the former Yugoslavia and how Arkan recruited the ultras for partisan Belgrade for his army during the Civil War because they were the most badass mother fathers he could find. You know what I mean? Keep it clean.
I like it.
Pieces like that. And he gets into the religious thing with the two clubs in Glasgow and in Edinburgh also, Hearts and Hibs, right? And it's very interesting read, and you I find that the game transcends, and I think that's because all you need is a ball. You don't even need boots. Mm-hmm. It's I don't want to call it the great equalizer, but it's a sport where like third world, second world, first world can all compete on sort of a levelish playing field. You look at all the guys from Brazil, right? They grew up in the mean streets. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is great. I'm loving this idea of this book, though.
Yeah.
That appeals to me that there is actually somebody who's taken soccer and then created.
Yes.
Like a line of stories and found a whole line of tales and history around it. So to me that is fantastic.
Yeah.
So your team, who is it?
We don't state this on the pod often because we don't want to alienate, but it's Chelsea in England. Yeah. But I'm born and raised in Montreal, so I was happy to see the Montreal Impact, their franchise. In essence, I use air quotes right now at the table, gained promotion to MLS, which is the top tier in North America. So
lovely.
It's given me some great joy. I've been out to a couple games out in the old hometown. And
Good.
Yeah, it's cool.
So are you happy for me to mention on the podcast Chelsea is your...
You can mention that.
You
can mention that. But I want to say I've been a Chelsea supporter for like 20 years. I have a jersey dating from 96, 97. So this is before the oligarch bought his way to glory. Yes.
So, what do you think is the great appeal over here? Because it's definitely more of a European
110%,
game.
Yeah.
So why do you think, because I've got to be honest, having come to Canada, it's huge over here, but oddly enough, I'm not going to say, with no offence to the American and Canadian teams, they're not as popular.
No.
It seems to be all the European and more so the UK teams.
110%,
because I believe there's a Liverpool, an Arsenal. I don't know if there is a Chelsea club, but I do know of an Arsenal and Liverpool supporters group in Calgary. So why is this?
This has always baffled me, to be perfectly honest. I think there are expats. There are certainly folks who I think they're like second, third generation Canadians, but a lot of us came from England, Scotland, Northern Ireland, the Republic of Ireland.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've always found that interesting because again, growing up in Montreal, which is a very multicultural city, and I mean, you go to an Impact game in Montreal today, and you hear Italian and Portuguese and Spanish spoken in the stands, there's a large Central African population, Haitians, etc. Right, so they all grew up with the sport, now live in Canada, etc. Calgary, particularly out here in Calgary, I find it befuddles me. Do you know what I mean? I think. I think it's very interesting that, like you mentioned, the supporters club. There was a small Chelsea one in town. You go watch a Man United match, and the whole pub at the Ship and Anchor is decked out in red kits. There's Man United fans everywhere, and
That is the zone in Calgary for it. The Ship and Anchor.
110%. Yeah, that's the epicenter.
From what I hear, there are one or two others, but that seems to be.
Yeah, for me, that's the epicenter for sure.
If nobody has been to the Ship and Anchor, it's a nice old school looking pub. This is coming from a Scotsman, but it is draped in football scarves.
Yeah, above the bar.
Over.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
So you were saying.
So I don't know, I don't know if it's folks have, like me, for example. I mean, I played since I was 6, and then just growing old, I latched on to Chelsea almost by sheer happenstance. To be honest, they had a short guy, Gianfranco Zola, playing striker for them.
Even I remember.
Yeah, there
Zola.
you go.
And I remember.
And
him.
you know me, I'm just a little guy. 5'6" in the morning when I wake up before my spine compacts. But on a school trip to London, I saw this shiny Chelsea shirt in Harrods. Actually, they took us for an afternoon at Harrods.
Really?
We were kids. Yeah, we couldn't really afford anything, but I said, I took all the spending money I had and I bought that Chelsea shirt, and it's been a love affair ever since. Yeah. So I find you unless you are, unless you've moved to Canada from Portsmouth or something, I find generally it's second, third generation Canadians who may have ancestors who traveled over here and. Maybe they have that sort of heritage of footy fandom in their family. I think it's very telling that folks always latch on to the big clubs. Like you said, Arsenal, Liverpool, United. More Chelsea fans now. You got more Chelsea bandwagon jumpers for sure. But it'll be rare to find somebody who says, like the Cleveland Browns. Nobody cheers for the Cleveland Browns in American football unless it's done with irony because they're absolutely terrible.
Right.
So you wouldn't find, at random like a Southampton supporter, for example. Do you know what I mean?
That's interesting because obviously we grew up in a little place called Prestwick on the west coast of Scotland. About 45 minutes from Glasgow.
Yeah.
Ayr United, Ayr and Prestwick are effectively the same town joined together.
Okay.
And there was Ayr United. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
AYR. Yeah, for sure.
And of course, in the day, my father would take my brother, and never really me. He took me once, never again, because I was miserable. I was really miserable.
Okay.
It was cold. You
yeah.
had to stand.
Precipitation?
Yes.
Yeah, there you
that
go.
Dastardly stuff. And there was just men kicking a thing in the field.
Yeah.
I just, no.
Yeah.
But my brother, great fan.
Yeah.
But oddly enough, he went from Ayr United, and as you said, not a small team. He went straight to Glasgow Rangers.
There you go.
But also, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and if he ever listens to this, not that he will, he'll never listen to a podcast, it's not his thing. I think it was Rangers and in England, Chelsea were his second team.
Okay.
So always,
See?
you're actually right, always the big team.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of people go to.
110%.
Obviously, you've got the people who live in the towns.
Yeah.
Certainly there, if you lived in Stranraer, you will support Stranraer. If you live in Hull, you'll support Hull.
Yeah, for sure.
But it is weird when you say about people coming over here. Why the draw? Why don't because there's bound to be people who've come from Southampton or they've come from those smaller cities or towns.
Yeah.
But yet when they come over here, they seem drawn to the bigger teams.
And I do have one other theory I will say, and I think part of that is because it also brings a sense of community, right? It can be. I think just it can be a hard. Calgary in particular, I think, can be a hard city to find community. You have to really dig for it sometimes. Whether that's a podcasting community, needlework, cross stitch club, whatever. You know what I mean?
I love your extreme there. That was a beautiful thing.
Pardon me, but yeah, I think it brings a sense of community, right? Like if you put on that shirt and you go to the pub, you're going to be there with like-minded individuals. And there's definitely safety in numbers with the bigger clubs. We have a team here in Calgary, Foothills FC, play in the Premier Development League. They have a small yet vocal and extremely loyal supporters group called the Foot Soldiers, and I'm on a group chat with them, and you can tell they have lives and spouses and other halves and stuff, but this is their time to come together. It's thicker than water. It's the common bond.
Nice,
They just love the banter. They love I think it's a nice way to find community. Yeah.
I like it. So community.
Yeah.
Family, that kind of group.
Yeah.
See, that I can get.
Yeah.
That's a very Scottish attitude, that kind of, the bonding of community.
Yeah.
Foothill Soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. They always seem to have that sort of name,
they do.
groups.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
They always seem to have a slightly warlike attitude.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm biased.
Yeah.
And I will say this to everyone who's listening, I am slightly biased because I've come from a country where football got taken to the extreme of just carnage.
110%, yeah, for sure.
I don't know if you've ever encountered this over here. I believe, when sometimes these ice hockey matches go on, and when they win the champion, they have a tendency to destroy places.
Yeah. It's not that bad. There's no threat of physical violence. You know what I mean, between supporters.
Yeah, we see that in Scotland, sadly, I'm not going to say now, but certainly for a while. I think it still happens.
Yeah.
I remember heading into Glasgow one night, my friends were going for a night out, and as we hit the city off the train, that's when it dawned on us.
Yeah.
There was an Old Firm match going on.
Oh, yeah.
And you avoided Glasgow in the Old Firm.
Yeah.
And we were walking down Sauchiehall Street, and there was a bar called Nice and Sleazy. Yes.
Oh, love it.
Says it all.
I love it.
It was a rock bar.
Okay.
It was just a grungy rock bar.
Fair.
And we were thinking, we'll go in, and we went in and had a beer, and we noticed there was quite a few supporters in there, and straight away we're thinking time to leave.
Yeah.
So we walk out, and I remember this vividly. We walk by the window, and literally as we get to the wall barrier, all of a sudden we hear a shatter of glass, turn round to see a table on the sidewalk, followed very quickly by a group of people fighting because two different, the Celtic and the Glasgow Rangers, they were all in there, and it was like, and that's where my bias comes from.
For sure. And and that's something, I think that is one part where when you're watching the games, when you're watching the matches from the Ship and Anchor, from the friendly confines of the Ship and Anchor, 7-8 time zones away, depending on the time of year, you're not really exposed to that. On our podcast too, that's something because we are, we take a humorous take on the sport. We think the culture of idolatry of athletes is kind of funny, That's something we don't often touch. But when we read stories of fans getting assaulted, England just played a friendly in Amsterdam. There were 100 England supporters arrested. They were hurling bottles at you know what I mean? Yeah,
shame.
That kind of stuff. I don't think we're used to that in North America.
And I will say that's a good thing.
Yeah, 110%.
Don't get me wrong, it doesn't happen all the time. And as a non-supporter and someone that's baffled by this kind of bit,
for sure.
I'm not trying to knock it.
No,
this is kind of all I've encountered.
Yeah.
And I believe there was a horrible thing I read, which I thought was such a shame actually, and it was a statement that came from Russia about the World Cup towards English supporters. And I thought, that's such a shame because the World Cup is such a joy to watch. Even you're not a fan, you can enjoy the different teams, but to hear things like that.
Yeah. So it's those two groups of, let's say, a couple dozen rabble-rousers.
Extremism.
And that's the stuff that's going to make the news, not the other 40,000 people who have just gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was in the Netherlands with a buddy of mine in 2000. We had tickets to go see the last pre-tournament friendly before Euro 2000 between the Netherlands and Romania. And we were on a train, a suburban train, taking us out to the Amsterdam Arena. You could feel the train car bouncing up and down. Everybody's singing and everybody's jovial. We're the only two people on the whole train car who weren't singing. And sure as heck, like about 3 or 4 guys walked up to us, standing over us because we're sitting in our little 2-seater. And actually, interestingly, in English, the guy looked down all stern and he said, "Are you guys from Romania?" And we thought, we almost sullied ourselves.
Oh, dear.
But luckily, I had on my Dutch kit below a sweater, and I just pulled my collar down about 1.5 inches, and he saw the flash of orange and said, "Oh, okay, no problem." You know what I mean? But I think that was thankfully, my only near brush with rival fans.
Yeah, there's
right?
definitely more extreme passion. I think that's the
for
best
sure.
way to put it.
100%.
Extreme passion over in Europe.
110%, yeah.
I'm talking about only a few wee things here, and I hope this isn't making it sound negative.
No, not at all. No,
I also know that there's so many games that happen where I've encountered some environments which are just like so much fun. You can see that both players are so passionate and happy.
110%,
they drink and celebrate amongst themselves after the game.
Well, even during big tournaments, the thing I don't all, in Calgary, there are these cultural pockets that you're not always privy to, but you say a World Cup game will wrap up at 2 p.m. on a Saturday, and let's say Ecuador have just vanquished somebody, and you see all these cars with the Ecuadorian flags flying. It's all jovial, horns are honking, everybody's happy. And I think one of the most interesting things about that is not only is it positive, but also it's like I didn't realize there were that many Ecuadorians here, you know what I mean? Like, and it makes me curious and proud to be part of such a multicultural place of residence, I guess.
And that's why that is one of the reasons I love about Canada.
Yeah.
We have a country here which is very accepting, it's very open,
Yeah.
and it doesn't seem to... ice hockey apparently can create a certain degree of passion.
110%,
But over
yeah.
here, the soccer element is a lot more jovial and
Yes,
friendly.
110%.
And even
yeah.
when you get the Arsenal and the Liverpool supporters in the same place if they're playing, there's always a lot of love and respect.
110%. Oh, yeah, it's all positive razzing. Yeah, 110%.
So
for
that
sure.
I do like about Canada, and certainly I think that's one of the benefits.
Yeah.
Europe is a lot more passionate. We're a little bit more ancient, no offence.
Yeah.
And I think that creates a weird attitude. There's a certain thing in our bloodline, and I feel like here sometimes you can't help it. There's that old kind of warrior kind of thing where you just sometimes forget that we're now in a modern time. Yeah. And it's about mutual love and respect.
110%, yeah.
Everyone is a human. And
for
we're
sure.
not going to bludgeon your head in with a broadsword.
No, exactly, yeah.
It's that type of thing.
Yeah, 110%.
But this has been absolutely brilliant. I love your passion.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, thank you.
And although this is a storytelling podcast, the story of soccer is definitely there. And the way that you even talk about it, it's just like I could quite happily, if you were up on stage doing a seminar on soccer, even the Philistine
really?
would listen to it.
Thank you kindly.
So, if you'd like to just remind everyone of your podcast.
Yeah, for sure.
Just let them know how amazing it is.
Yeah. Well, it's fantastically amazing. I'd rate it a 12 out of 10 if I could.
12 out of 10. Yeah. Well, I think I'd back that. Yes.
It's published weekly, every Wednesday. You can catch it on all the requisite channels: Apple Podcasts, Google Play, etc. It is called The Young Gaffers. You can also visit our website at theyounggaffers.com. Don't forget the double G. Yes. And co-hosted with a very good, very, very, very good friend of mine named Jason, and we hope you check it out. Thank you.
And that was Adam, one part of the Young Gaffers, another one of the Alberta Podcast Network's podcasts powered by ATB. But ATB, let's talk about them for a moment, because they have a huge wealth of things it can offer. I am particularly fond of two of their specific facilities. The first one is the Entrepreneur Centre. We have one downtown in Calgary. But the other is their Arts and Culture branch. If you're an artist, you know that banking can be difficult because, let's be honest, your income isn't traditional. ATB's new Arts and Culture branch was built for you. You can finally get your banking done in a way that works for you and the industry you work in. It's very flexible, it's very open. The people that work there are amazing. The Arts and Culture branch is open in Edmonton at the CKUA building and in Calgary at the ATB Stephen Avenue branch, which is where the Entrepreneur Centre is as well. So these are killing two birds in one stone if you pop down and speak to these guys. Learn more about it at atb.com/the branch. In honour of Adam giving me this lovely chat and interview with him, I always like to give a gift back, and that's the gift of a wee story. Now, the problem being, I don't have any stories about soccer. So I had to think long and hard about maybe dancing, because Adam works for the ballet, or some sort of sports, and the only one I could really think about was a Finn McCool tale from Ireland about Colcha the Swift. Colcha is said to have been the swiftest and fastest man on earth, completing some amazing challenges and tasks set to him. But one day, it was decided by the King of Ireland that he wanted a handful of sand from the four corners of the country. This way, when they were brought to him every morning, he could smell them and know if a foreign invader had landed on the soil. He called upon the three swiftest men that he knew and offered them the task. The first man said that he could complete the task as quickly as a leaf falls from the tree. The second man, with a sneer and an arrogant laugh, told the king that he could complete the task as quickly as a cat sneaks between the dwellings. But then the king looked at Colcha. Asking him the same question, the answer brought a smile to the king's lips. I can complete the task as quickly as a woman changes her mind. The king laughed heartily and was so impressed with this answer that he immediately granted the task to Colcha. Colcha smiled back at the king and held out his hand. He then set 4 piles of sand onto the table. While the king had been laughing, Colcha had already completed the task. And that's a very short and simple tale from the Finn McCool sagas from Ireland. There is a lot more of those beautiful stories. Hopefully I'll be able to cover them. They're ones that I am still learning. I adore them so much. And with an episode full of soccer and sports, I suppose the only book recommendation I can give you is something that would tie in with that. Now, Audible has over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPod, iPhone, Kindle or MP3 player. And do remember, with the Bothy Storytelling Podcast, you have the option for a 30-day free trial and a free audiobook download at www.audibletrial.com/Bothy Podcast. And the book that I'm going to recommend today is very simple. Soccer for Dummies. Okay? Maybe some of my listeners love soccer, have a great idea or a great understanding. I'll be honest, I live with a young lady that used to play soccer, and still I know nothing. You kick the ball in a net if you're lucky, or you fall down and roll about for half an hour after somebody poked you in the shoulder. That is soccer to me. But Soccer for Dummies is available on audible.com, and it is $33 and a penny. I believe this book would probably even teach me enough about soccer to get by all the offside trap. Yeah, I think I saw that in a film once. And what was it? The Full Monty. That's the only reason I know about that. So yeah, Soccer for Dummies on audible.com. Bear in mind you can download that for free and get a free 30-day trial with the code www.audibletrial.com/Bothy podcast. Soccer for Dummies, $33. You can get that for free with that trial with the Bothy podcast. And that will teach you everything you need to know about kicking a pigskin across grass or AstroTurf. See, I'm not as dumb as I pretend to be, maybe. I know some of the technical jargon. So, Soccer for Dummies is my recommendation on the back of speaking to Adam from the Young Gaffers today. And of course, after our book recommendation, we move straight on to our podcast recommendation. You know, guys, I'm being lazy here. There is only one podcast that I can recommend. I know I've already recommended it, but it's the Young Gaffers. You know, having chatted to Adam, I've got to know him over a period of time through podcast networking, etc. And he is so passionate and driven about soccer. And having a chat with him was such a delight. I would recommend listening to the Young Gaffers. They do talk about some of the most wonderful stuff. They are both energetic and passionate guys. And they are part of the Alberta Podcast Network. So the Young Gaffers is definitely my recommendation for listening to a podcast. They're well into their hundreds in the episode list. So there's a huge back catalogue to catch. And as you heard, Adam says they try and release weekly, so there is more coming out all the time. So find the Young Gaffers. Adam mentioned how to locate them at the end of the interview, but they are through the Alberta Podcast Network. So if you find that online, you will find myself, the Bothy Storytelling Podcast, and of course, our recommendation for this episode, the Young Gaffers. Well, that looks like that is us now coming to the end of another episode of the Bothy Storytelling Podcast. This has been a great and fun episode to do, getting out, meeting new people. Adam, such a joy to sit and chat with. I hope you enjoyed the interview. I appreciate that the audio quality was a little bit rough with the background noise, but hopefully it still made enjoyable listening for one and all. Now, if you are enjoying the Bothy Storytelling Podcast, remember we have a Patreon page. Find it simply by going onto Patreon and looking up the Bothy Storytelling Podcast, and you'll be able to find us, have a look at the reward tiers, and become a patron of the Bothy Podcast. That will allow me to develop and grow this podcast. But find us on Facebook, find us on Instagram, find us on Twitter. Search high and low, and remember to have a look at the other great podcasts that are available through the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB. This has been another episode of the Bothy Storytelling Podcast. I am your host, Calum Lykan, and I look forward to hearing, to seeing, to you listening to the next episode of the podcast. Until then, enjoy.